G'day, g'day. Rob Burns here for another episode of Bob Each Way. How are you? Look, I follow a couple of pages to do with rugby league. I'm a bit of a rugby league tragic from a young age, and there's one of the pages I follow. We're lamenting the demise as such of um, country rugby league. Particularly, this was in New South Wales, and I equate it to what's happening in Queensland with country rugby league. And I talk about a particular town that I lived in, spent quite a bit of time in growing up and that sort of thing, in Charleville. Uh, Once upon a time, they had, I think there was about six teams in that Southwest, Charleville Southwest competition. They had two teams in Charleville, Augathella, which is a little town, next town up from Charleville. It's about an hour's drive away. Quilpie, which is 2 hours west of Charleville. You also had Cunnamulla in there as well, had a side as well. And you also had Thargomindah back in the day, and Charleville had two and sometimes three teams out of Charleville. They also had reserve grade and an under 16 plus a junior comp as well. The senior comp over the last couple of years has folded. I think it happened prior to COVID, and this is a competition that bred some pretty good players. The likes of Billy Johnston played in the Charleville comp. Chris Close actually played in the Charleville comp before he played Origin for Queensland. He carved him up out there in Charleville. He played for Cunnamulla. His parents had a pub in Cunnamulla, and he played for them and did a pretty good job. So did Billy Johnson. He was a Cunnamulla, a local. But a guy who just passed away recently, Danny Peacock, also played in the Charleville comp as well. And Kurt Capewell's father played in the Charleville comp as well, and he was quite a handy footballer as well. And Kurt did too. There was a young bloke, my late nephew. He played in the Charleville comp as well, played junior football out there as well as in Rockhampton. Michael Purcell played in the Q Cup, just didn't quite get up to the NRL level, but I think he was good enough personally. He's passed away a few years ago, but he was a very good player. If you ever get a chance to have a look at some of his highlights, I'm sure there's some out there on YouTube. Have a look at him. He was an amazing footballer. And this competition now doesn't exist as senior comp. A lot of the players that are in Charleville looking to play in senior football have to travel to Roma, another great comp as well. That the likes of Darren Lockyer played there, the great Arthur Beetson, an immortal played there. Ray Higgs, a guy called Charlie Frith used to play for South back in the day, one of the toughest footballers you ever see running around. He played in that Roma comp as well. And like all the Charleville guys go now to Roma to play, they play for, the majority of them, I believe, playing in for the Mitchell Magpies, another great side there. My nephew, one of my nephews, is captain. He just recently got injured playing for the Mitchell Magpies in Jandowie. So they've got to travel from Mitchell to Jandowie, which is outside of Chinchilla, and Chinchilla down to St George, in and around Roma to play. And they're coming from Charleville to do that, so that's another 2 hours or thereabouts to get to there. Then they have to go on to Jandowie to have a game of footy. So they do a bit of travel in the West for football, and back in the day, you never saw those two competitions together as such. Charleville had its own Southwest competition, the old Wallell Cup. Anyone who followed football in Southwest would remember the Wallell Cup. They were pretty great clashes in that competition. And Roma had its own competition as well. And they're talking about the demise of rugby league and how it's how can the NRLs help these towns keep the league going and that. And I don't know if they can and such because they for the senior comp, because it's really an economic thing. A lot of the jobs and that were around in the West, that I remember, the old railway workers and myself, the old council workers that were around, and used to play footy and that sort of thing and be in the towns, they don't have that sort of workforce around anymore that used to play the game along with the other people in town as well. So that's caused the game to suffer. But what's going on out there is a lot of children, a lot of young adults, young fellas, kids playing the game, and they have another great player from Charleville was Adrian Vowles, played for Queensland as well. He goes back every year. He has the Adrian Vowles Cup, and he's put back into the competition out there. And when it first started, I remember I was working on radio in Charleville when it first started, and they used to only play on the showgrounds in Charleville, and now they've expanded to 3 fields. They play at the showgrounds, at the high school, and at the field over behind the Scout Hall on the highway out to Cunnamulla. So that competition's really expanded, and it's all for juniors. So the junior comp is pretty good out that way, but the kids travel a fair way. Like I mentioned, Quilpie, Augathella, Charleville, even Thargomindah, and they travel to these towns. Say they have a carnival in Cunnamulla, all the kids who want to play from Charleville travel down, from Augathella travel down. They play a couple of games. Quilpie kids travel over for a game. Thargo kids come in and have a run for Cunnamulla because they don't have a team in Thargo anymore, but they play in the Cunnamulla sides. So they travel. So that's a couple of hours travel for games. And if they have to go to Augathella, they go to Augathella in, a few weeks, and Quilpie and play, right around the southwest. So these parents get up in the morning. The games start at like 9:30 in the morning on game day. So they've got to be there early. And I'm not talking about just a half-hour trip across town. It's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour trip, longer in some cases. You've got kangaroos, you've got other animals that go around, and antsy kids sitting in a car getting all excited for football, travelling a couple of hours to have a game. So you can imagine what it's like for these parents. And I think that's the thing that the league should look at supporting, and keeping that junior talent pool going, and support the parents in some way, with those local communities. Because Roma do exactly the same thing as well. They have juniors that travel around, they have carnivals. And I was talking to some people in Roma when I went out there for NAIDOC, talking about the carnivals. When they do a carnival in the country towns, they have the footballers, when they come out there, like Charleville and that, they used to march them through town and line them up with their teams, put them in their team blazers, their coats, tracksuits, whatever, and march them through town. So, they really look after them in the bush, and maybe that's the sort of thing the league should get behind, to try and support these country towns to do events like that, because it's fostering the young players coming through. The senior players are sort of don't, there's not as many around anymore, but those juniors coming through, they're the future of the game as such. They need to be looked after, because how many talented footballers that come from the bush, geez, that's an endless cycle of footballers, not only from the west, but also like North Queensland and that sort of Mount Isa, another great footballing area as well. And this is something that maybe the league should be looking at supporting more, that junior development, instead of putting money into all these, big picture projects. The big picture projects are fine. They need the Perth Bears. I think we need a national competition. But, geez, we've got to look after these juniors and the parents who do the hard yards, getting their kids to the footy and that as well. And the girls are starting to come into the game as well. The Adrian Vowles Cup was only for boys, but they have a girls comp within the Adrian Vowles Cup now, I believe. And they had something like 60 teams. I could be over, but I'm not far over. They had about that many teams in Charleville this year for the Adrian Vowles Cup. And so that an influx of people into town. Look, get in the NRL. Old players like Adrian Vowles, he puts his time and effort into this Adrian Vowles Cup. Maybe drag a few like the Kurt Capewells and other country footballers that have done well. Gordon Tallis was a country footballer. Drag them into it as well and see if they can support it in some way and keep the game going in the bush, because it does need to survive in the bush. Maybe the senior game might suffer a bit, but those juniors definitely need to keep going, and they're doing it themselves with their parents and that to keep the game alive. Okay, that's Rob Burns having my say about an issue that's come up recently on Facebook for me, so I just thought I'd post something about it. But that was Bob Each Way, and I will talk to you later.